Hi everyone, welcome to the Freestar Publisher Forum. Today we have Scott Spaulding, VP of Demand Sales and Partnerships with us. He'll be talking about capitalizing on programmatic demand.
Thanks, Paige. I was pretty excited when we were talking internally about starting a publisher forum to talk to you as the publisher group on a regular basis to just let you know what we're doing on the demand side and in general what we're doing at the company, things that you may not be exposed to on a day-to-day basis. So expect more of this content, and we would love feedback within the Slack channel or your TAM. Please let us know what you think of this, and if you have any other topics you would like for us to touch on, please let us know. A quick intro about myself. I've been in ad tech, or in media, if you will, for roughly 17, 18 years. The majority of my career has been at 3 companies. Quantcast was the most recent, and then the 2 before that was Rocket Fuel and ValueClick, which is now known as Conversant. And the landscape has changed significantly when it has come to buyers and how buyers interact with sellers and publishers in general. And I thought it would be helpful if I was able to just share a little bit of how I've seen the evolution of direct sales from the times of the early 2000s when media was not all that accountable. The outcomes that media buyers would look for would be targeted reach, frequency, and every once in a while you'd get a click-through rate threshold. And on the direct response side, it wasn't even much more aggressive than that. But today, when media is placed, there's so much accountability on every impression that's transacted with. We need to always make sure on our side, on the demand side, when we're talking to our advertisers, that we're managing expectations and making sure that we are proposing solutions to them that make the most sense so it warrants a renewal and we can build a strong base of business. One thing to note with the ad agency community is they are getting squeezed big time in the public market. So the major holding companies and their respective agencies that represent advertising dollars, their margins used to be really fat in the days of Mad Men. And if anybody's had a chance to watch that show on A&E or I think it's A&E or AMC, AMC, you would have seen the fat lunches and it was taking a lot more time on creative, where today everything is mathematical and everything is automated. And so with that, and the transparency that comes with that, everything is getting squeezed and commoditized, and nobody's feeling that pain more than agencies. So what that means to us on the direct sales side is where we used to look at direct sales and programmatic being mutually exclusive. The lines are getting blurrier and blurrier, and for the most part, they're becoming the same thing. So we're really having to redefine what direct sales means. And a lot of times it means private marketplaces where we're selling your content, because the more automation there is on the agency side, the less people they have to pay on their side, and the more that individuals and humans on the account management side within agencies can manage at once in terms of capacity, and those efficiencies then translate into the investors for the agency holding companies and the agencies. So all that context is really important, because when we want to take your inventory and sell it, we want to make sure that your inventory is as marketable, the way we package it up as much as possible. And so these demand buyers, these agencies want to maximize their spend with not only Freestar, but our individual publishers. So when it comes to Freestar and what we offer and how we're helping with those efficiencies, is we, as you know, are providing a monetization team, which is pretty much myself and Jeff, who you've probably been working with on our pub ops team for quite some time, as well as an ad ops team. And so by creating efficiencies for you, it allows you to spend more time within your publishing your content, but also it's very, very expensive to have an in-house sales team, and in terms to have efficiencies on your side, outsourcing to a company like Freestar, where we see ourselves to the agency landscape as a programmatic publisher rep firm, makes a lot of sense. It allows us to maximize net profit for you by allowing you to spend more time creating that content so you can maximize your amount of organic unique users, therefore impressions, and so we can monetize them with agencies. So that is the remit of my team, to maximize net revenue for you. I thought it would be helpful to jump in and talk about who the buyers are today and what each one of those buyers look for when they're purchasing inventory, maybe the context around what they do as well. So in early 2000, there was really only one buyer, there was one channel, and we would call that just the general agency account team. And yes, there were some direct advertisers that bought directly, but for the most part, they hired agents to do the buying on their behalf, hired labor, if you will. But we've really seen a fragmentation over the course of the last 18 years in terms of how advertisers are having their money spent and transacted with individual publishers when it comes to inventory. So it's really important for me to have a specific channel strategy for each one of these 5 channels that, again, allows your inventory to be the most marketable as possible. So agency account teams, not much of a surprise there. It's what we've been working with for the last, call it 50 years, and even back to the Mad Men days. And Initiative is an agency under the Interpublic Group umbrella, which is a holding company. They have an individual account such as a Fujifilm, which we will get to, and then we would work directly with that agency account team, and they would place their media with us, and we would go off to the races. This is something that all of you are very, very familiar with. We've been doing this for a very long time, and this is the easy money. Unfortunately, this used to be 100% of how money was spent. Now it's only about 25% of the money that's out there to be spent is in this individual channel. Agency trading desks. This has been probably one of the most fundamentally important shifts in programmatic and media overall over the last 15 years. An agency trading desk is a programmatic hub. Think of it as a centralized programmatic hub for a large swath of advertisers at an agency holding company that empower this agency trading desk to spend their programmatic money for them. So an example there is of the 6 major holding companies and their holding company trading desks, Interpublic Group, which I mentioned with Initiative earlier, they have an agency trading desk called Cadreon. Cadreon is, actually it was our first agency trading desk established partnership, and I'll get into that a little bit more. But what that means is they exclusively represent 88 advertisers, and they spend the programmatic money for advertisers such as Papa John's, BMW, SeaWorld, and a lot more Fortune 1000 brands. So for us, putting a lot of our resources to cover and have relationships with these agency trading desks is directly benefiting you. And another benefit here is being an individual publisher. No one individual publisher outside of Facebook and a number of others is large enough to warrant getting a seat with a buyer at an agency trading desk because they're an efficiency play. There are very few humans, but there are many machines. And because of that, we are able to bring you incremental demand that you would not have been able to get by working directly with an agency account team. Even if you had an individual business development manager, you would not be able to get agency trading desk money because of that. So it's very important to us that we lock down of these 6 relationships. We start knocking them down one by one. We've established one in the last 2 months. We are very close to establishing another one. And the other one that we're looking to establish is representative of 200 Fortune 1000 advertisers, which is really exciting to us because we're able to then relay that demand all the way on to our publishers. And that really differentiates us in the marketplace. There are vendors that are out there in our 3rd channel. And when you think of vendors, think of the tactic of audience targeting. These vendors like to cherry pick impressions, generally when they're user retargeting on behalf of their advertisers, across all 170 publishers that we have. They're not buying any individual publisher. They're looking at our inventory as a whole. So they see us in the US market as a 2.5 billion impression swath of impressions. And because of that, it allows us to really garner much higher CPMs for you, because when they're cherry picking, there's a reason they're looking for individual users. So it's up to me to make sure that we have private marketplaces in place with our top 30 spending vendors on the open exchanges today. And so as we get upstream, they look to allocate to our swath of inventory, meaning our 170 publishers before they then allocate to the open auction. And the benefit to them is that it mitigates them against spending on fraudulent websites within the open auction. So it's important for them to be able to pre-qualify really quality content, which we offer at Freestar, which is why we've been able to get a lot of these PMPs in place with our vendors. Direct advertisers, we're seeing a lot more direct advertisers bringing their advertising media buying in-house. Main reason being is with the agencies going the way they're going and being squeezed on margins, there's been some direct advertisers that are finding a lot more value by buying directly. And even if they're not buying directly, it's still important that we have relationships with direct advertisers, because they, more times than not, will be able to influence buys going through their agencies. And so we put a lot of effort behind working with the direct advertisers as well. And then lastly, very similar to agency trading desks, within agencies, there's a different bucket of money for programmatic agency account teams that is different from budgets that you're able to get through agency account teams. So by having coverage across all of these 5 channels and working with the largest spending demand partners in each of these channels, we're able to get upstream, garner the highest eCPMs for you, and work with the top 1,000 brands that you're very proud to have on your website. A quick example of how a holding company is broken out, I'll be very quick with this, but just so you kind of have a sense of the fragmentation. If you were to look at the far left side, the stream of money used to go from the agency holding company. It would go down a level to the individual buying agency, which is Initiative, which I mentioned earlier. Then you would go to the far left side again, and then the account team would be Fujifilm, would be covering Fujifilm, and then we would be able to get the money from our publishers. That used to be the way media was bought 100% of the time in the 90s and well before that. But right now you're able to see that it can branch off to the programmatic team, and it can branch off to the agency trading desk. So it's very important that my team is able to cover all these relationships to get the most money for you. So what's top of mind for me when I'm working with these top 5 channels, and what directly benefits our publishers? And for the first thing that I like to think through is, how can I bring you demand that you're not already able to get through just general header bidding? And so as I identified the advertiser targets that make the most sense to pursue, it's because we are really trying to focus on not just hitting that baseline, which you're already getting today, but really reaching above that baseline. So we're trying to maximize the premium fill by getting you higher eCPMs, because generally the eCPMs for direct sales can be 4 to 5x higher than what you're getting across general header bidding fill. We want to work with direct relationships, so we do not work with resellers. We want to make sure that we are getting the largest budgets with the highest eCPMs, and there are no intermediaries that are taking value away and taking money away from our publishers. Again, garnering higher CPMs, which I had mentioned already, exclusive advertising sources. So on the agency side, kind of going along the lines of having no resellers, it's important to us that we're working with agencies that have exclusive relationships with these advertisers. And so we think that we see ourselves getting as much money as possible, where, again, nobody's taking a cut along the way in the value chain. Endemic advertisers, super easy targets for us to go to on individual content channels for obvious reasons. And they want to make sure they're aligning their great brand equity with great publishers. And by just starting that dialogue, we're able to connect our publishers to those individual advertisers. And I'll get into this in a little bit, but we don't approach any specific advertiser with just one site. The way we operate once we onboard you is we will slot you in an individual content vertical. And what that means is we have verticals from moms to technology to automotive. And so what we'll do is we'll identify the top 20 advertisers in each individual vertical that make the most sense to approach. And then we will approach them with our entire content channel, so every publisher benefits from the revenue that we're able to yield from an individual advertiser. We like to work with always-on campaigns because it takes just as much effort to get a perpetual always-on campaign where the revenue is constantly going year after year and month after month versus just getting a one-off campaign. And then lastly, Fortune 1000 advertisers, they have the most money. We want to make sure from an efficiency standpoint, we are going after the largest brands and the most reputable brands. So it's not only getting a high enough eCPM for you, but it's also brands that you're really pumped to have on your website. So that wraps up pretty much the topic of this presentation.
Thanks so much, Scott. So now we have some questions that you guys submitted via the Speak Up link that we'll go through today. So a question, how are you going to improve the earnings of existing customers?
So every impression that, or for the most part, every impression that you are serving is being monetized by a premium Freestar demand partner. Where I come into play with my team is, that's the baseline to me. Your effective CPM today is my baseline. I'm trying to get a premium on each one of those individual impressions that are being served at the 4x or 5x by working directly with these brands, working directly with vendors that are willing to pay 4 or 5x more by working through private marketplaces, even having a direct connection through OpenRTB, than they would get on the open exchanges, which is how the majority of impressions over the past year have been monetized. So the more effort, the more resources that I put in on identifying where we should be focusing my team's efforts on, it just directly results in you getting a higher effective CPM.
Awesome. Will direct sales numbers show up in the dashboard, and we'll be able to see detailed breakdowns of which companies this revenue is coming from?
So on the dashboard question, yes, today you're able to see direct sales numbers in the dashboard today. And when I say direct sales, that does include private marketplace or PMP numbers, because this is just the way a lot of our direct clients want to transact these days. When it comes down to seeing the detailed breakdowns of what companies this revenue is coming from, we've heard this from a couple of different partners. With our engineering team already, we want to make sure we're focusing on what's able to monetize your inventory today in the most efficient way. So once we get that taken care of with our stack and really maximizing profitable revenue from you, we are going to move and get richer analytics, and that does come to show you where we're seeing this breakdown, but that's probably not going to be coming until 2019.
How often can we expect direct sales to come through, or alternatively, what % of our monthly impressions will be direct sales?
So today, on average, across our portfolio of 170 sites, 5% of your fill today is direct sales. My personal goal is to get that number up to about 15 to 20% by the end of this year, and then 30 to 35% by the end of next year. And again, it comes down to not having any impression that you're serving today not being monetized, because most every impression that you are being served or that you are serving today is being monetized. It's just up to my team to get a premium for each one of those impressions, so your overall effective CPM goes up, which means your net profit goes up.
Awesome. Will you be taking Freestar publishers and attempting to find direct sales for each site, or will you be taking advertisers and matching them to Freestar publishers?
So to best explain this, I'm going to jump to a slide that I already talked about today, because the channel strategy is different for each one of these. For vendors, as I mentioned, the tier 1 vendors that are cherry picking our sites, to them it's just showing them our entire swath of impressions available as Freestar as a company, which is, think of more the general look. When it comes to direct advertisers, agency account teams, and even programmatic account teams, we like to lead with our individual content channels, because it really comes down to the needs of the individual advertiser. If you're talking to an advertiser that is in the CPG space, or let's say CPG space, which is consumer packaged goods, they want to target moms most of the time. So if we've identified Henkel, which is one of our new partnerships on the PMP side, they're a very large CPG. The first thing I did when I identified them as a good target is I let them know how strong our publishers in our moms vertical was, and they were convinced right away, and they've signed up to transact with us on a PMP. Now extrapolate that across 200 other individual advertiser targets and what we're doing across all of our different verticals. So every publisher in every vertical can benefit, just not the largest publisher in each vertical.
Awesome. How do you select which publishers to include or exclude in a direct sales campaign? Will any publishers get a preferential treatment when it comes to direct sales opportunities?
Absolutely.
Any advice on what a publisher should do or not do to get excluded from direct sales deals?
Yeah, this is a real easy one. There's definitely preferential treatment that does take place, and what that means, and it's all in your control. Please ensure your ads.txt information in that file is up to date. Our agency partners want to make sure that every one of our publishers is compliant with what they expect, and they do expect to have updated ads.txt because they want that line of sight from when they're serving an ad to where they're delivering an ad. So to not get excluded, please make sure your ads.txt is up to date, and you will be able to take advantage of all of these PMP deals that we are doing. Secondly, put yourself in the shoes of our advertisers. They want to make sure that every brand or brand impression that they're having. Let me back up for a second. They want to make sure that every impression that's being served alongside their brand, they're very proud to be along that content. So in terms of your placements, no stacking. If you stack your ads, the brands will opt out of your site. They want to make sure that they're viewable placements. They want to make sure that they fit in very well with the content you've published. And if you can think to yourself, would a brand be proud to have their ad on my site? Odds are you're going to be included in the PMPs. So, and if you do have any questions on what is going to be the most compliant, reach out to your TAM and they'll help you with that.
Great advice.
Thank you.
When do you expect to start seeing some significant movement on direct sales PMP marketplaces for those publishers whose ads are mainly solely network ads at the present?
So think of that as your baseline. Your eCPM today with the network ads, that is your total baseline. And ever since, I would say early January, when we really started hitting the gas of trying to establish these partnerships with these larger programmatic hubs or the agency trading desks, where we have one in place already. So that's 88 advertisers already that are programmatically working with us. And secondarily, there are agencies that we're working with already on the programmatic side and endemic side. And every time we close a deal, think of that as a base that just keeps getting bigger and bigger, because we are trying to focus on those always-on campaigns. So you should see that average eCPM gradually increase over the course of the next couple months, and then really accelerate in the back half of the year as we keep adding more folks onto the demand sales team.
Can we see any examples of direct sales campaigns that are or have been running on Freestar sites?
Since I don't have any visuals with me today, and this question just came in, I don't have any right at this exact moment, but I can tell you we are running advertisers off the top of my head, such as Moo, Vimeo, Squarespace, and Fujifilm. I can tell you that we have active proposals out for Apple, Sony. We just closed the Game Show Network. Henkel, which I mentioned earlier, we just established a PMP deal with them. And then of all the different trading desks and their advertisers that are coming through. So, I'd hate to say check out your site, just keep hitting the refresh button. But if you are able to, you will notice a higher caliber of ads coming through over the course of the next couple months, and really accelerating the back half of the year if you haven't noticed it already, as well as your eCPMs increasing because of this.
Is there a minimum IO amount for direct deals?
We try to get the most money out of our advertisers to make sure that they're just not coming to us for $2,000 and $3,000 campaigns, because again, we are trying to move the needle with each one of our publishers. So what we've done is we put a $10,000 a month minimum in place for direct deals, and the hope there is that we're able to get those deals that advertisers were only looking to spend $8,000 after they see the quality of the publishing content that we do have. They want to up it to $10,000 and meet that minimum, but we don't exclude anybody. And so if there are those advertisers that are really solid, we feel like there's a lot of quality in their brand, and they don't necessarily have the budgets, we are rolling out a self-service platform for those advertisers to run across your publishers. And working with Paige here and a couple of folks internally, we're working on commercializing that solution in the next couple of weeks, and it should be ready for prime time in mid to late Q2.
Amazing. All right, looks like that's it for now.
So thank you everybody for tuning in and listening to what I had to say. We are going to try to keep this cadence up of doing this once a month. And so if you do have any topics you would like to hear from us on across any function, publisher operations, again, on the demand sales side, if there's anything on the marketing side you'd like to hear about, we were thinking of keeping the similar format, and the first half would be us talking about what we're doing to be as transparent as we really want to show you guys what all the great stuff we're working on here. And then the back half can be the Q&A. And if we have to go an hour to talk through questions, we're happy to spend as much time on that as you'd like. And again, if you have additional questions that you don't want to wait until the next publisher forum, please reach out to your TAM or hit us up in the Slack channel. But thank you for your business, and we'll talk to you on the next publisher forum.
Thank you, guys.